Today we'll speak about the dollar and the fact that it's probably making a base. Some of you may think that we are not aggressive enough. The dollar has been shooting up quite aggressively over the last 2 weeks, yet we believe that nothing goes in a straight line and we could still see some work before it actually really takes off towards the second half of the second quarter. So first of all, we'll look at euro-dollar with a weekly chart or the perspective over the next few quarters. We can see that the uptrend since 2016 has found a strong resistance point at the top of our corrective targets up, slightly below 125. This resistance has stopped its up move, and since then, euro-dollar has been consolidating. We believe that it may retest this resistance over the next month or so, but in general, that this resistance will hold and that during the second half of the year, we may see some euro retracement, possibly down back below 120 and possibly even below. Now looking at the daily graph, we could see that the 120 are already in sight. We are currently in a correction down. This correction down could lead us between 121 and 118. That said, this correction down should also serve at some point as support, and we believe that euro-dollar will attempt one last move up. Will it be just a retracement or will it make new highs? It's difficult to say, but we believe it could take place between early May and the end of May, early June. So this correction down should come towards support here, and we should see a bounce that could attempt to retest highs. Looking at the hourly graph, we try to understand when the low point is going to be. What we could see is that we've seen quite a strong acceleration down. Our envelopes are touching each other. The risk index is slowly getting into oversold, yet there's still some risk over the next week or so, possibly back below 121 and possibly eventually down below 120. So there's about still perhaps a week to go in this downtrend. It has already come some way, so we believe that the remaining risk is possibly limited, and we'll probably be looking to buy the dips sometime between the end of this week and early next week. In general, what we see here is that the resistance over the long term around 125 has worked effectively, and we believe it will continue to work, so we don't expect a huge explosion up of euro-dollar. What we can see is that the correction down is slowly getting into its corrective targets down, which will serve as support and allow the euro to attempt a bounce up towards its previous highs. And that for now, it's possibly a bit too early to consider that resume uptrend situation, and that we'll probably wait towards the end of this week to act upon it. Now we want to look at sterling, which is quite similar. It has also entered on the weekly graph its corrective targets up, and it has since been stalling. What we could see is that it pushed slightly higher into April, but our risk index is very much overbought, which justifies the current correction. Our impulsive targets up had also been achieved above 142. Now also here on the hourly, we could see that we've seen quite a strong sell-off over the last 2 weeks. We're not quite yet oversold, and there's still some potential lower, potentially down to slightly below 136. So also here, although we believe that it may retest up over the next month or so, the potential pretty much seems capped by the fact that we are exhausted on the targets, that we have reached the overbought zone of our risk index, and that we're pretty much in the resistance of the corrective targets on a weekly chart. So also here we'd probably wait till the end of this week to initiate a trade that could profit from the bounce, but we don't believe that bounce is going to lead us much higher than we have been over the last couple of months. Now looking at the reverse view and looking at dollar Swiss, we can see that the rally on the dollar has been very, very strong over the last 2 months, and that it actually came down to find support in our corrective targets down. So the opposite view, which corroborates what we see on euro US dollar. We could also see that the risk index came down quite nicely and seems to have turned up. It wasn't quite oversold, but it seems to have to now be repositioned potentially in an uptrend. On the daily, the chart looks very, very strong. The risk index bottomed out in the oversold zone here in the month of February and has since been moving up quite linearly. We can see that the potential is above parity. That said, over the short term, we may be getting towards our smaller envelope, and we believe that we may see some work during the month of May before it accelerates up again. This one we could also see on the hourly chart. We've gone pretty much the full-blown uptrend. We are coming to the overbought zone. We've pretty much reached our targets up. So at some point we should see these exaggerations starting to weigh on prices, and we would expect some consolidation down on dollar Swiss. So in general, a very promising reversal over the long term on dollar Swiss. A promising daily, which still has potential up and is not overbought yet, and the daily, which may enter a period of consolidation during the month of May. Now, it's also interesting to look at dollar yen. The dollar yen is still downtrending on our weekly chart, but as we can see, it's very much oversold at the moment on our risk index and can justify a bounce which could last 1 to 2 quarters. If we look at the daily, we've also come to the oversold position. We've corrected up to our corrective targets up. These will act as resistance, so we may see some work during May, but then once that consolidation is over, we should probably be able to reaccelerate above the corrective targets, above 110.50, and then possibly into the 112, 118 range. The hourly, as with the Swiss franc, is overbought on the risk index, has reached its target, so it pretty much achieved what it had to achieve in this initial move, and we believe that it could now consolidate some during the month of May. Now we'll look at the mosaic of all these charts, and interestingly, well, on the daily we can see that euro-dollar is correcting, that cable is pretty much exhausted, that dollar Swiss has been much more dynamic to the upside than the correction we've seen on the two European growth currencies, as we would want to call them, and dollar yen is also correcting up. Now we would expect euro-dollar to try to initiate a last retest up, similarly on cable, and some retracement, but to a less extent, sideways down on dollar Swiss and dollar yen. All this possibly during the month of May. So we're more bullish on euro and GBP against the dollar than we are on the retracement potential for dollar Swiss and dollar yen, which means that the crosses, euro yen, euro Swiss, GBP yen or GBP Swissy, well, are still very much in an uptrend. Now, short term, we may see 1 or 2 weeks, maybe towards the end of this week, of retracement here, but we believe that during the month of May and June, the crosses should remain strong, possibly until the end of June. And we could also confirm this with our weekly graph. So you can see the resistance that we've hit here on euro Swiss and cable. We can see the reversal, which may be happening on dollar Swiss and dollar yen. But the crosses, for now, are all still in bulls and possibly still heading up into the summer and possibly the month of September. That may also translate to a continuation of the risk-on environment, and our view is that it will probably extend into at least mid-year, possibly early midsummer. Thank you very much and have a good week.